Skill D. Matching words and categories. Number 1. Campus life.
Can you answer a few questions for me about the computer labs?
Sure, that's my job.
Great. Well, I was wondering what general services are available.
Let's see. There's instructional tutoring, open labs, training workshops, and we can always help with individual questions.
What are your hours?
Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday we're here 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. During the fall and spring semesters we are open on weekends too. On Saturday we're here 9 to 5 and Sunday 11 to 4.
Let me double-check this. You offer open labs, training workshops, and instructional tutoring. During the fall and spring semesters, you are open 7 days a week?
That's right. And don't forget we offer help with individual questions.
1. According to the man, when are they open 7 days a week? Two. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
Let me double-check this. You offer open labs, training workshops, and instructional tutoring.
Why does the student say this?
Let me double-check this.
Three. Match the hours of operation with the correct day of the week. Number 2. Agriculture.
Okay, everyone. Raise your hands if you like corn. Most of you. Good. Corn is a popular food and important crop around the world. It is especially popular here in the United States. In summer, a lot of people enjoy eating corn at picnics. For example, on the 4th of July here in America, people often have a barbecue and eat corn, as I'm sure a lot of you do. However, corn can also be used as feed. By this I mean it's used as food for animals too. Cows, for example, are usually fed corn for 4 months before they are slaughtered. So can anyone tell me why it is used to feed the cattle? The answer is because it makes the beef taste better. The corn makes the cow's beef high in fat. And it's the fat that makes the beef taste good.
1. According to the professor, which of the following is true of corn? Two. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Good. Corn is a popular food and important crop around the world. It is especially popular here in the United States.
Why does the speaker say this?
It is especially popular here in the United States.
3. Match each time of use with its purpose. Number 3. Literature.
The Greek philosopher Aristotle was very involved in the development of drama. He believed that drama was made up of 6 major elements. The most important was plot. This is the story or the series of actions that happens in the drama. So the plot is usually developed when 2 or more characters meet. Now, character is the second most important element of a drama. Aristotle believed that the characters should reveal things about themselves and tell us how they feel about other characters. The third element of drama is dialogue. This is the conversation between characters. The dialogue should advance the plot and/or develop the characters. So according to Aristotle, dramas should include a plot, characters, and dialogue.
1. According to the professor, Aristotle was involved in the development of which of the following? Two. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Now, character is the second most important element of a drama. Aristotle believed that the characters should reveal things about themselves and tell us how they feel about other characters.
Why does the professor say this?
Aristotle believed that the characters should reveal things about themselves and tell us how they feel about other characters.
Three. In the lecture, the professor discusses several elements of drama. Indicate whether each element below is discussed in the lecture. For each word, mark the correct box. Number 4. History.
In 47 BC, Julius Caesar became the ruler of Rome. His right-hand man was Mark Antony. That is, Mark Antony was the most important member of Caesar's group. Mark Antony was a politician and a general. He was a very good general, but unfortunately, he was not a very good politician. In politics, he was not always honest. He also wasted a lot of money that was not really his. On the battlefield, Antony did a much better job. He was sometimes violent, but that was okay in the military. People listened to him because they were afraid of him. But his use of violence in politics led to a state of anarchy in Rome. That is, the residents of Rome became out of control. Caesar was not happy about this state of anarchy.
1. According to the professor, what two professions did this person have? Two. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
He was sometimes violent, but that was okay in the military. People listened to him because they were afraid of him.
Why does the professor say this?
People listened to him because they were afraid of him.
3. Based on the information in the talk, indicate whether each word or phrase describes the man as a politician or a general. Number 5. Campus life.
Hello, I'd like to buy a parking pass.
Okay, they cost $400 per year.
Fine. How can I pay for that?
Are you faculty, staff, or student?
I'm a full-time faculty member. I teach biology.
Okay, then you can use payroll deduction. I ask because students can't use payroll deduction.
Really? They can't pay with their paychecks, even if they work on campus?
No, only full-time faculty or staff can use their paychecks to pay for the parking pass. That is the payroll deduction option.
Well, how can students pay for parking passes?
They have to pay in advance with a credit card or cash. Most students pay in advance with a credit card.
1. According to the woman, what is true about students' parking payments? Two. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
How can I pay for that?
Are you faculty, staff, or student?
I'm a full-time faculty member.
Why does the woman say this?
Are you faculty, staff, or student?
3. Are these statements true about parking passes? Choose yes or no. Number 6. Psychology.
We are going to talk a little about depression today. Depression is an illness which affects many people in the United States. In fact, about 30 million people in the U.S. have experienced major depression at some time in their lives. The problem is that not everyone who gets depressed receives treatment. Recent reports state that about half of Americans with depression are getting treatment. In the past, more women received treatment. Now the number of men who receive treatment is nearly equal to the number of women, although more women still seek treatment than men. Who receives treatment is not so much related to gender as to age. Depression is seen more in younger people, those between 18 and 40 years old. People over 60 years old experience less depression than younger people.
1. What are the key points of the lecture? Choose two answers. Two. What does the speaker imply when she says this?
The problem is that not everyone who gets depressed receives treatment.
3. Match each group of people with the correct category. Number 7. Chemistry.
Do you know how particles in gases behave?
The particles in a gas are well separated. They are separated far apart and have no real pattern.
What else about them?
Particles in a gas move very quickly. Okay, my turn. Tell me about liquids.
Particles in liquids are very close together. However, they have no real pattern.
Okay, so liquids are like gases in that they have no pattern, but liquids are different because the particles are close together.
Right. Now, what about solids?
Particles in solids are tightly packed. That makes sense because solids are hard. Since the particles are packed closely, they usually have a regular pattern.
1. According to the speakers, what do particles in liquids and gases have in common? Two. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
Particles in solids are tightly packed. That makes sense because solids are hard.
Why does the speaker say this?
That makes sense.
Three. Match each characteristic with the correct category. Number 8. Sociology.
A health gap refers to how members of one group do not receive the same quality of treatment as another group. For example, a white person in the US may receive very good health care, while a black person may receive poor health care. There are different reasons why health gaps exist. One reason is socio-economic. That is, a person's social and economic level may not allow him or her good access to health care. A doctor's care or services simply might be too expensive. That probably doesn't surprise anyone. But there are also barriers to simply enter the healthcare system. People of different racial groups may actually face discrimination at a clinic or hospital. Finally, the quality of service can differ. Minorities may not receive the same quality of service as white people, even from the same doctor.
1. According to the professor, what is a health gap? Two. Why does the professor say this?
That probably doesn't surprise anyone.
Three. In the lecture, the professor explains several facts about health gaps. Indicate whether each statement below is true or not. For each statement, mark the correct box. Skill E. Making inferences and predictions. Number 1. Biology.
Today, I want to talk briefly about roses and some diseases that affect them. There are two diseases common to wild roses. These are rose rust and rose black spot. The first, rose rust, causes leaf loss. What happens is this. In early spring, orange spots can appear on both sides of the leaves. This is then followed by pinhead-sized yellow spots on the underside of the leaves. Eventually, blackish-brown spots will appear and the leaves may fall off. If this happens, you should burn the leaves to prevent the disease from spreading. A second common disease for wild roses is called black spot. With black spot, the upper side of a leaf will have, as the disease's name suggests, black spots. Other parts of the leaf will turn yellow. Eventually, the whole leaf turns yellow and falls off. The good news is that people can buy special products to treat both of these problems.
1. Is each of these points discussed in the lecture? Click in the Yes or No column. 2. What can be inferred about the two diseases? 3. Based on the last part of the lecture, what will the professor probably discuss next? Number 2. Campus life.
I'm looking for a journal, but I can't find it here in the library.
What is the name of the journal?
The Journal of Speech and Hearing.
True, we don't have a subscription to the Journal of Speech and Hearing.
I need an article from that journal for my research.
You can get it through an interlibrary loan.
Really? How does that work?
Let me show you on the computer right here. First, type the name of the journal you want in this box.
Here?
That's right. Then, type the name of the article you need or keywords in the title in the box below the journal title. The article will be photocopied and mailed to you.
Great. I'll do that now. Just my name, the name of the journal, and the name of the article.
Right.
1. In the conversation, the speakers talk about a problem. Indicate whether each statement is true about the conversation. For each statement, mark the correct box. 2. What can be inferred about the man? 3. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
True, we don't have a subscription to the Journal of Speech and Hearing.
I need an article from that journal for my research.
What does the speaker mean when he says this?
I need an article from that journal for my research.
Number 3. Psychology.
Today, we will be talking a little about groups and how they can form. Groups can develop in various ways. One model proposes that there are 4 stages of creating a group. First, people must get along, or pretend to be friendly with each other. Once people act like they are on a friendly basis, the second stage can begin. The second stage is called storming. Here, politeness is not always respected. Group members test each other to see how the relationships may change. So group members make waves or cause small storms in the group. After the storming stage, normalization begins. In the normalization stage, the group members get used to each other and begin to act in cooperation. Finally, the productivity stage begins. Productivity means that group members work with each other to do a project.
1. Match the actions with the correct stage of creating a group. Two. What does the woman imply about groups? 3. What does the professor imply when she says this?
Once people act like they are on a friendly basis, the second stage can begin.
Number 4. Campus life.
I have a few questions about this meal card. Can you help me?
Sure.
My meal card and university ID are all in one card, right?
Yes, that's right. Your student ID and meal card are both in one card.
How many meals do I get each term?
That depends. You need to select and pay for a meal plan. But choose carefully. Your meals do not carry over from week to week.
So you are telling me that if I miss a meal 1 week, it is gone forever?
That's right.
Okay, so where can I set up my meal plan?
Go up to the payment office on the 2nd floor. After you choose and pay for your plan, they will activate your card.
1. Are these statements true according to the conversation? Choose yes or no. 2. What does the man imply when he says this?
Your student ID and meal card are both in one card.
3. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
You need to select and pay for a meal plan, but choose carefully. Your meals do not carry over from week to week.
What does the man mean when he says this?
But choose carefully.
Number 5. Agriculture.
Continuing in our series of lectures on important crops, we are now going to talk briefly about the soybean. There are many uses for soybeans. Can anyone give me an example?
Aren't they used for making cooking oil?
Very good. In addition to cooking oils, soybeans are also popular as foods for people and animals. We produce a lot of soybeans here in the United States, but not as much as other countries. There is a lot of competition. The United States cannot produce soybeans as cheaply as some other countries. Brazil is expected to be the largest exporter of soybeans in the near future. This is because Brazil is increasing the amount of soybean fields in the country. Hopefully, this will reduce the cost of soybeans in the U.S. in the future.
1. Match each point with the correct country. Two. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Brazil is expected to be the largest exporter of soybeans in the near future. This is because Brazil is increasing the amount of soybean fields in the country.
Why does the speaker say this?
This is because Brazil is increasing the amount of soybean fields in the country.
3. What does the professor imply about the cost of soybeans? Number 6. History.
In 1863, President Lincoln of the United States gave a famous speech called the Gettysburg Address. Gettysburg was a battlefield in Pennsylvania that was used during the U.S. Civil War. After the Battle of Gettysburg, President Lincoln went there to give a speech. When he first arrived, he knew what he wanted to say, but he did not have a speech written. Lincoln went to his room the night before the speech and finished writing. The next day, he gave his speech. It lasted only 2 minutes. Lincoln worried that his speech wasn't very good, especially because it was so short. However, it became famous because it was spoken from the heart.
1. In the lecture, the professor discusses a famous speech. Indicate whether each fact is discussed in the lecture. For each fact, mark the correct box. 2. What does the speaker imply about Lincoln and the speech? 3. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Lincoln worried that his speech wasn't very good, especially because it was so short.
What does the professor imply when she says this?
Especially because it was so short.
Number 7. Archaeology.
Ruins can be found in every country of the world. Sometimes if you're walking in the country, you may see the remains of a piece of man-made architecture. Well, that's what ruins are, those remains. In the beginning, we have a whole or complete structure. However, as a result of the weather or lack of maintenance, the structure becomes weak over time. Then parts of the structure might fall down or plants may grow over it. You have all seen that kind of thing, an old building covered in grass or plants. There are 2 types of ruins. There are historical ruins and modern ruins. Historical ruins can be found in places such as Athens or Rome. Probably you've all seen pictures of some of those. A modern ruin could be a building in a city. Maybe just some old building that you've seen which wasn't repaired.
1. Match each of these ruins with the correct classification. 2. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Historical ruins can be found in places such as Athens or Rome. Probably you've all seen pictures of some of those.
Why does the professor say this?
Probably you've all seen pictures of some of those.
3. What is implied by the following statement?
Sometimes if you're walking in the country, you may see the remains of a piece of man-made architecture.
Number 8. Campus life.
Do you know how to sign up for independent study?
Yes, you need to first ask a professor if she or he would be willing to work with you.
I know which professor I'd like to work with. What do I do after I ask her?
Well, if she accepts, then you just enroll in independent study like you enroll in any other course.
How do I do that? Where can I find the course number?
Right, you need the course number. There is a special number for independent study.
I didn't see that course number listed in the schedule of classes.
Go to the office and ask the secretary. She can give you the course number for independent study courses in the department.
1. Based on the information in the talk, indicate whether each phrase below describes something the student needs or doesn't need to do. For each statement, mark the correct box. 2. What does the woman imply when she says this?
Yes, you need to first ask a professor if she or he would be willing to work with you.
3. What will the man probably do? Skill F. Placing steps in a sequence. Number 1. Campus life.
Excuse me, Dr. Anderson?
Yes, come in. What can I do for you?
I would like to enroll for developmental psychology next semester.
Oh, you want to take my developmental psychology class?
Yes, I would.
Well, that should not be a problem.
Well, actually, the problem is that I don't have the prerequisite.
Oh, yes, you need to have Psychology 201 first.
Up to this point, I have only taken Psychology 101.
Psychology 101 is just the introductory course.
Is there any way I can still take the developmental psychology course?
Well, you could try taking 201 and developmental during the same semester, but it won't be easy.
I'll work hard, I promise.
1. In the conversation, the professor and the student talk about the student's situation. Summarize the conversation by putting the statements in the correct order. 2. What does the woman mean when she says this?
Well, actually, the problem is that I don't have the prerequisite.
3. What does the professor imply when he says this?
Well, you could try taking 201 and developmental during the same semester, but it won't be easy.
Number 2. Political science.
We've been talking about governments. Last time we started talking about monarchies. We made a list of kings and queens, remember? Well, today I'm going to introduce you to one type of monarchy, an absolute monarchy. The monarch, that is the king or queen, has complete control in an absolute monarchy. The state may have a constitution. However, the king or queen can overrule the constitution at any time. In today's world, this type of monarchy exists where education and communication are restricted. Examples are Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Swaziland. So, to repeat, in an absolute monarchy, the monarch has absolute power over the people. The king or queen can allow constitutional rights to the people or terminate those rights at any time. Most of the wealth in these monarchies is held by just a few people.
1. In the lecture, the professor discusses several points. Put the points of the lecture in order. Two. What can be inferred from the talk? 3. According to the lecturer, in a monarchy, who holds most of the wealth? Number 3. Music.
How many of you have played a musical instrument? If you have, you may know about woodwind instruments. These are wind instruments which are called woodwinds because at one time they were all made of wood. With woodwind instruments, the sound is made by vibrating air inside a tube. There are 3 different ways these sounds can be made. The first is by blowing across an edge. Can anyone give me an example of this?
A flute?
Right, very good. Or a whistle. In both these cases, you blow across an edge. Now, a second way of making this sound is by blowing between a reed and a fixed surface. In case you don't know, a reed is a thin piece of cane or metal which vibrates when air passes over it. An example of this second type of instrument would be a clarinet or saxophone. The third way is by blowing between 2 reeds. Again, an example of this would be an oboe or the bagpipes.
1. In the lecture, the professor discusses several points. Summarize the lecture by putting the points in the correct order. 2. What can be inferred about wind instruments today? 3. According to the lecturer, which of the following types describes the bagpipes? Number 4. Campus life.
Hi, I need some information about this post office.
Sure. What do you want to know?
Can I mail packages from here just like at a regular post office?
Of course. We provide all the services of a regular post office, plus some extras.
Services of a regular post office plus extras? What do you mean by extras?
Our extras include stationery. You can purchase all your stationery right here, too.
So I can send regular and registered mail, rent a post office box, and buy stamps. Plus you have stationery.
Exactly. And don't forget money orders.
Wow, money orders too. You offer a great service.
1. In the conversation, the people talk about several points. Summarize the conversation by putting the points in the correct order. 2. What can be inferred from the conversation? 3. What is an example the woman gives of special services the post office provides? Number 5. Astronomy.
How old is the sun? That is a question that scientists have asked for a long time. To be honest, we don't know exactly. Throughout history, scientists have used different methods to calculate the sun's age. The current method to calculate the sun's age involves measuring the speed at which the sun radiates energy. So we have all this heat coming from the sun. Scientists try to measure the heat coming each second. As the sun gets older, it sends out more energy. The sun gives off more heat at a faster rate, so scientists measure the change in energy, the difference between a long time ago and now, to figure out the sun's age. The current calculation is that the sun is 4.6 billion years old.
1. In the lecture, the professor discusses several points. Summarize the lecture by putting the points in the correct order. 2. What can be inferred from the talk? 3. According to the lecturer, which of the following is true? Number 6. Campus life.
Could you help me find some information?
Yes, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for a research article on the library database. I'm just not too sure how to use the computer.
Okay, well, what's the name of the article you need?
It's called Becoming Bilingual.
Okay, so type that title into the space that says title.
Got it. Now what?
Do you have the name of the author?
Yes, the author's name is Jack Sweeney.
So type that where it says author.
Okay. Ah, there's my article. Now, how do I find it?
Well, here is the call number. That call number tells you where the article is in the library. It looks like we have that article on microfilm. It should be in one of the microfilm cabinets against the wall over there.
1. The speaker describes the steps in using the computer. Put the information related to the process in the correct order. 2. What can be inferred about the woman's occupation? 3. According to the woman, which of the following is true? Number 7. Earth science.
All water contains a certain amount of salt. Some water has little salt content, like rainwater. Other water has a lot of salt content, like the water in the ocean. Of course, ocean water is much saltier than the water in a lake. Scientists have determined that ocean water is more than 200 times saltier than normal lake water. Scientists have also determined how much salt there is in the oceans. They found that there is enough salt dissolved in ocean water to cover all of the earth. In fact, the salt could bury all the land on Earth at a depth of 500 feet thick. 500 feet is just over 150 meters. That's a lot of salt. Let's compare that with lake salt.
1. In the lecture, the professor discusses several points. Summarize the lecture by putting the points in the correct order. 2. What will the speaker probably discuss next? 3. According to the lecturer, how deep could the salt in the ocean cover the land on Earth? Number 8. History.
The Bastille is the name of a famous prison in France. Actually, Bastille is the French word for castle. The Bastille prison is famous because it was involved in the French Revolution. On July 14, 1789, about 1,000 people surrounded the prison. The people wanted the prison officials to surrender the prison. They also wanted to take the guns and ammunition that were inside the prison. Now, even though they were outnumbered at first, the prison officials refused. They began to fight with the attackers. Shots were fired by both sides. Finally, the French officials gave up since there were many more attackers than officials. In the end, the officials surrendered the prison and gave up their weapons.
1. In the lecture, the professor explains how people captured the Bastille. Put the events in order. 2. What can be inferred about the people who attacked the Bastille? 3. According to the professor, what is true about the attack on the Bastille? Skill review. Number 1. Campus life.
Professor Reed?
Oh, hi, Susan. Come on in.
I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time.
No, not at all. I could use a break. What can I help you with?
Well, it's about your class on sociology. I had a few questions after the last lecture that I couldn't find the answers for in the book. Could I ask you?
Yes, of course. What is your question?
It's about a comparison you were making about women in different countries.
Was it just about women, or was I comparing men and women?
Oh, right. It was a comparison between men and women. It was something about how much they earn.
Let's see. Was I talking about industrialized countries, or...
Yes, it was about industrialized countries. You mentioned countries like Sweden, Norway, Canada, and the U.S. You mentioned something about how women with a college education in industrialized countries are likely to earn more money for their work in a business setting.
Right. Women who have a college degree in developed countries will earn more than women who do not have a college degree. However, this trend is not uniform across all industrialized countries.
Really? Where is it different?
Japan, for example. Although Japan is an industrialized country, women with college degrees in Japan do not earn more money due to their degree.
Why is that? Why don't educated women in Japan earn more money for their work?
To begin with, very few women in Japan get a college degree compared to other developed countries.
Well, if fewer Japanese women get degrees, do they work much?
That's another point. There are fewer Japanese women who work in general. That means that there is less labor force participation by women in Japan.
Why is that? Why do we see that difference when compared to many of the Western countries?
First of all, there are many cultural differences between Eastern and Western countries.
Cultural differences? Like what?
An Eastern country like Japan puts a lot of social pressure on women not to work once they are married. In fact, this pressure is supported by the tax system, so women who work are taxed heavily.
Ah, that social pressure would explain why there is such a low marriage and birth rate in Japan. Women are not so quick to get married or to have children, so they can work as a single woman and earn some money on their own.
Exactly right. Many Japanese women wait to get married and have children since tradition dictates that career and marriage are not compatible.
1. What are the speakers mainly discussing? 2. What are the reasons for women in Japan not to marry? According to the professor, what is true about women in Japan? Choose 3 answers. 3. Why does the professor mention the case of Japan after he talks about other industrialized countries such as Sweden, Canada, and the U.S.? 4. Based on information in the conversation, indicate whether each statement below describes a social trend in the U.S. or a social trend in Japan. For each statement, mark the correct box. 5. What can be inferred about the student when she says this?
Well, it's about your class on sociology. I had a few questions after the last lecture that I couldn't find the answers for in the book. Could I ask you?
Six. The professor describes the cultural influences that lead to fewer women working after marriage in Japan than in other industrialized countries. Indicate whether each of the following is an influence mentioned in the lecture. For each statement, mark the correct box. Number 2. Physical education.
What exactly is physical fitness? I'll start by giving you my definition. Physical fitness is the ability to perform a variety of activities. These could be simple activities like dressing and eating on your own. I mean, for example, many older people find that one day they can't bend down to tie their shoelaces because they haven't maintained their physical fitness. Today, I want to look at 2 important factors that need to be considered in any discussion of achieving physical fitness. Okay, now, The first factor to consider is nutrition. What we eat and what we don't eat affects our functional longevity. By functional longevity, I mean the duration of time that our body can remain fit and ready for use. You might think of longevity as meaning living for a long time, but that is not enough. We need functional longevity to live for a long time in a condition of good health and fitness. So, what should a person eat? Over the years, the ideal diet has seen many changes. For example, in 1968, the American Olympic menu included lots of meat, eggs, cereals, breads, desserts, fruit juices, and soft drinks. Nowadays, trainers advise athletes to eat complex carbohydrates, such as whole grain breads and beans, foods low in fat, such as low-fat yogurt and steamed fish, a wide variety of fruit and vegetables to avoid vitamin deficiency, and less protein, such as red meat. If people are careful to eat a balanced, nutritious diet, they will improve their ability to carry on normal activities well into their later years. Remember, low fat, low protein, and lots of fruit, grain, and vegetables. That's the diet to aim for. So, the first factor of functional longevity is nutrition. The second factor I want to talk about is exercise. We all have the image of someone working out at the gym, running on the treadmill, or lifting weights. Well, of course, that is exercise. But in simple terms, exercise is nothing more than muscular usage, using muscles. There are two kinds of muscular usage: short-term usage, like going up a flight of stairs, and long-term usage, like walking across the campus to a class. Even the act of picking up a textbook is a kind of exercise. Place the book in the palm of your hand and raise your hand. When you pick up your book, there is a muscular contraction. This is isotonic contraction. That's a bit technical, but don't let that word scare you. It's a simple concept. Isotonic contraction happens when there is actual movement of a body part. You will be using your biceps muscle to raise the book from the desk. Isometric muscle contraction, on the other hand, is when there is effort but no movement of a body part. For example, if you're applying effort to biceps, maybe trying to show off your big biceps to your friend. Remember, isotonic involves movement. Isometric, just contraction, no movement.
1. How does the professor explain physical fitness? Choose two answers. Two. According to the professor, what is functional longevity? Three. Listen to part of the lecture and answer the question.
By functional longevity, I mean the duration of time that our body can remain fit and ready for use. You might think of longevity as meaning living for a long time, but that is not enough.
Why does the professor say this?
You might think of longevity as meaning living for a long time, but that is not enough.
4. Match each food with the correct category. Five. What can be inferred about modern athletes compared to athletes in 1968? 6. The professor describes the process of isotonic exercise. Indicate whether each of the following is a step in the process. For each statement, mark the correct box.